Okay, so this is Stitch's video, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, this is Stitch. Yep.
great. And
So we've managed to do a few more circles, which you'll get to see. So I'm pleased about
excellent,
that. Yeah. Yep.
excellent. And let me share the screen and we'll just get straight to it.
Yep.
So he's staying forward on a circle.
For the majority of the time, not always, but
Excellent. Okay, so it's about a 30-minute video. I'm just going to let it start playing. And anything,
mhm.
any questions or anything you want to bring up about how
No,
he's doing?
I'm keen to get your feedback when he goes around the circle, just to make sure I'm using the right techniques, or is there anything I kind of need to improve? I suppose the only thing, you know how he's got kissing spine,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know if this has got anything to do with it, but you'll see a little bit of a palaver here. The ponies are over the fence. He'd like to bite them.
Yes, I
He's
can
quite cheeky.
see.
He's got a few little got a few little tricks up his sleeve, that boy.
Yeah.
I suppose because he's been a ridden horse before I got in for some time, so he's learnt. He's can be quite resourceful, let's say, with things.
Yeah,
Whereas Capulo's a
especially,
bit more innocent. Capulo just goes along, doesn't quite know that he could get out of it if he wanted to.
yeah,
Daisy, go sit down.
yeah, I think Stitch, I don't know if he was ever used as a lesson horse, but he is more wily. He knows how to kind
Mm.
of get out of things.
Yeah,
So your ground
yeah.
driving looks fantastic. I like number one that his ears are on you sort of right from the beginning. He's concentrating and he looks like he's starting off with a lot more energy than what he had been. Are both of those things pretty consistent now, where he's more
Yeah, I mean
business,
the ears
more
on
folk,
yeah, yeah, definitely. The ears on me are definitely getting better because they were never on me originally. Like they were everywhere but on me.
right?
They're not always there, but yeah, it's definitely improving. And I think even when I was riding him, like probably half the issue, isn't it? But his ears were never on me. He was always off elsewhere. So it was very spooky, very like,
Yes.
yeah, just not with me.
No, and it's a simple
Yeah.
thing, but a super important strategy to use like a change of direction, a transition, a little niggle on the rein, something to keep an ear on you when the energy level is coming up a little bit. Whenever a horse starts to feel
Mhm.
defensive across the board,
Yeah.
then getting
Yeah.
the ear turned on you is a way to effectively avoid a reaction.
Mm. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can only think about, they're kind of like us. They can only think about one thing at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, sorry, what I was going to mention about his kissing spine thing. I
Uh-huh.
noticed that now and again he'll stop and he'll turn around and he'll touch the center of his back, uh, as if it's I don't know. I could, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, is it hurting you? But I don't know if it's just kind of tingling. I know that we spoke about before when
hmm
changes are happening in the body, they can have kind of tingling sensations or something. So it could be that. But
He
yeah, don't
will
know.
he will feel it for sure, but that doesn't,
Yeah.
and it might even be slightly uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean it's painful, and it doesn't mean you need to stop what you're doing.
Okay. Yeah.
If it becomes really a level of discomfort that's crossing a threshold into pain, he will definitely let you know the way he used to. He will start charging you. He'll get really fussy. He'll blow up. He'll refuse to move. He'll give you more extreme behavior if it's a level of
Hmm.
discomfort that's starting to become painful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But otherwise, he will feel it, and it might not even be totally comfortable and easy for him at first, but it's at a
Hmm.
level that means you keep going.
Yeah. 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 I just wait for him to touch his back and then we kind of move on. Um, and he's actually better going the other way. So you know how originally I thought he was kind of crab walking quite extreme the other direction.
Hmm.
I mean, I always start off this way, just a bit of a creature of habit. We go this way, and then I just tried it one day, walking the other way in circles, and he was much better. So,
Yeah.
and then it makes sense because when I used to lunge him this direction, this is when he'd charge me
Mm.
on this direction. So,
Hmm.
and his right hind, I don't know if this has got anything to do with it, but his right hind is the one that's got the really bad scar on the bottom.
Yes.
He's been caught in a fence or something when he was
Yeah.
younger.
So both of your horses, to different degrees, are what we call a left-handed horse, which usually mechanically what that means is they underuse the right hind, overuse the left front. And it's as
Hmm.
common,
Yeah.
it's kind of as common as right-handed people. It's the more common
Yeah.
handedness in horses. And
Hmm.
it's sometimes the injury being on the right hind is because it was a leg he's less agile with, less adept at using. That can sort of
Hmm.
make it more injury prone, or sometimes it's the lack of use, lack of mobility that makes it more
Hmm.
susceptible to an injury. But even
Yeah.
without an injury, just the coordination of a left-handed horse means they don't use the right hind leg as equally to the left hind leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wh- And whether
Bit
that's
like
a
cuss,
lot or a
like you
little
say.
doesn't matter. And then the
Hmm.
kissing spine, basically the remedy for a kissing spine is movement in the posture of long and low. And
Hmm.
that's what
Kind of a
reverse,
stretch out the back.
yeah, it lengthens and restores suppleness to the muscles that are causing the contraction that are causing the spinal tips to come together.
Hmm.
So he's
Yeah.
making his way there. And sort of at first, like on the lunge line, he was high-headed, which really exacerbates kissing spine. That's the reason it happens, is when the back goes down and the head goes
Yeah.
up and all the muscles shorten.
Yeah.
That's the cause of kissing spine.
Yeah.
And that's also why he was probably uncomfortable enough that he would just charge you and tell you or bite you and said, "No, I don't want to do this. I've had enough." And his
Hmm.
attitude has 100% turned around. Like he looks like he's
Mm.
enjoying the work. He's more and more
Yeah.
concentrating on what you're asking him to do. And I love that
Hmm.
you did the circle. You did one lap around the arena and then got straight into the circles. I think that's a really good idea because it's going to
Hmm.
use that fresh energy and it's going to cause him to concentrate because it's much harder than doing the ground driving and the straight lines.
Yeah, yeah. I think I can't remember if it's this turn or the next one. We end up going large again because
Mhm.
I could tell he was starting to crab walk in a bit and it was getting a bit hard. So then we go
Yeah,
back out.
and that's perfect because what you discovered was even though you haven't been doing a lot of left, the opposite direction circles, it was better the
Hmm.
first time you tried it again,
Mm.
surprisingly. But what that is
Hmm.
attributed to is all the straight lines you've been doing have slowly been improving the balance, strengthening the body in a new coordination. And that's why
Hmm.
we kind of play with the circles. But if he loses forward or he gets really defensive, we don't need to do them yet. He's going to let us know. And I never really
Yeah,
worry about how soon they can do circles because when it's time, it's time. And I'm always
yeah.
looking, everything we're doing with them, whether it's sort of simple, more intense, less intense, we're trying to gain the same coordination in a way that the horse can say, yes, I can do that. And then they can get
Hmm.
better at it. So when they
Yeah.
start to say no to us, I go, let's just switch strategies until we get a
Change
yes
something.
again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not something you can rush, is it? It just takes the time it takes.
Well, it's the horse's way. Like in the last chapter I sent out, or the one before that for the textbook, where
Hmm.
we talk about the yes no conversation. When the horse says no to whatever task we're asking them to do or whatever, it's because they feel unsafe or uncomfortable. And if we
Hmm.
realize that they're doing the best they can, right? Then
Yeah.
when we,
Yeah.
like the whole horse industry tells us to make them do it, show them who's boss,
Yeah.
push through it, right? And
Yeah.
when we
Yep.
just put that to the side, and when the horse says no, we can try working through it. But if the escalation is becoming a more and more emphatic no, or they're really
Mm.
shutting down and we're having to get harsher and harsher, then what's
Hmm.
the problem of just switching strategies? Like, I don't,
Yes.
there's no
Yeah.
good reason not to.
Hmm.
And as soon as the horse can say yes, we can start building on whatever that is, just like we did with
Yeah.
Pablo.
Hmm. And that just takes experience, doesn't it? Knowing how far to push, when is it crossing the line? Because sometimes they say no because, oh, no, I don't want to do
Because
that
it's
kind of
hard.
thing,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But it's in their benefit. Yeah, so it's just knowing when to push and when not to.
So
But my
my,
both my horses are quite loud, so it's pretty obvious.
yeah, and my threshold for any horse is when the energy is moving more and more and more the direction
Yeah.
of resistance, defensiveness, kind of a either no more often or a more emphatic no tells me I'm hitting a
Hmm.
threshold for that horse.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
And we never really know where that is. Sometimes we think, like with
Mm.
Pablo, how hard can it be to hand walk? Well, apparently that was very difficult for him.
That was very hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he kept saying
Yeah.
no. And so
Mm.
that's why we kind of, and to me, we can know the strategies and the exercises, but at the end of the day, I'm throwing spaghetti against the wall, waiting for a yes from any
Mm.
horse.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
go, we just try different things. It's based on theory, but like Pablo is a good example of a horse that we thought if we put him on the long reins, we'll probably get less forward, and we got more.
Mm.
So you
Mm.
never really know. It's really unique
Yeah.
to the horse. But
Yeah.
anytime the horse starts to show more willingness, more calmness, more concentration, more cooperation, those are all the ways the horse
Hmm.
says yes to us. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's how we figure out an individual training program for every horse is just that.
Mm. Hmm.
Where can they say
Yeah.
yes? How hard do they say no?
Hmm.
But this is fantastic. And I wanted to say the one thing I noticed almost right away on this video was Stitch looks less congested in his body. Like he doesn't look as tight through his muscles. He almost looks like he's lost weight. I'm not sure if he has or not, but,
He, I
but
think
there's,
he has lost a little bit of weight, which is good.
yeah, and there's kind of less of a tight congestion to his body. His
Hmm.
movement even looks freer. Like he's got a little
Mm.
more forward energy and he doesn't sort of pull his shenanigans as often. His rhythm is better. And there's even like we
Hmm.
talked about with Pablo, the rhythm is the impulsion,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
with
Even if it's slow.
even if it's slow, and with Stitch,
Hmm.
we're seeing the rhythm with also a little bit of increased energy, which is even better.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and so I'm starting to see the outer muscles showing some changes. And the first thing is he just looks more supple from head to tail. He doesn't look so
Mm.
tight, which is
Yeah.
really good news. And I think
Yeah,
as
he
you,
was quite muscly before, wasn't he? When I first started, he was quite muscled up, but in the wrong way.
yeah, and that's why he was biting you. That's why he was snarky because he looked good, but it was
Mm.
sort of a kind of, he was
A
faking it.
trick.
Yeah, it was like he looked good,
Yeah.
but he didn't feel
Yeah.
good. And
Yeah.
as we sort of make changes to the coordination, right now he's in a stage where he's feeling a lot better, but he's not looking quite as good. But that will come back
Hmm.
around. right?
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yeah.
release of tension, I think, is what's making him look like he lost weight. Plus, he might have lost a little weight, which isn't the worst thing for
Mm-hmm.
him.
Yeah, the vet asked me to get some kilos off him.
Yeah, yeah. And
He's on the borderline of Cushing's perhaps. So yeah, he was a bit chubby before.
yeah, and just addressing it through the diet and regular exercise, even though the exercise isn't high cardio, it's still because you're changing the coordination, you're changing the muscle use throughout the body, which is going to,
Mm-hmm.
the more stable he gets through his midline and hindquarter, the more you're going to see that tension just go away. And then when he starts building the right
Yeah.
muscle, you'll have muscular strength that's also supple instead of muscular strength that's tight and makes him cranky.
Yeah, yeah. I heard the other day, I don't know how true it is, but I heard that a horse, like if they're walking correctly, they're using more energy than they would at the trot. That horses can trot pretty well all day. Is
Mhm.
that true or not?
Well,
Okay.
it's kind of specific to the back muscles themselves. So it's not that the walk takes more
Yeah, okay.
energy, that in order to balance at the walk, the back muscles and all the top line muscles, even some of the core muscles, work a little harder during the walk and during the trot. What
Mm-hmm.
happens is the tendon and ligament system works more, so the muscles work less. So the trot is
Okay.
less
Yeah.
work muscularly, but just like us, it
Mm-hmm.
still requires more energy to be in the trot than in the walk.
Yeah. Cardio, I suppose. Yeah.
Hmm.
Their heart rate would probably go up a bit, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ironically, when we're trying to build back muscle and hindquarter strength, the walk is a
Mm-hmm.
bigger challenge than the trot.
Mm.
Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
It is. It's good to know, isn't it? Because you
Hmm.
think, oh, just walk. Walking or doing enough exercise. But yeah, it's good to
Yeah,
know
and
that
that's
it is
why,
actually.
like going back to when you were lunging Stitch, we played with walk, trot, and canter right away. But now that he's on the long
Hmm.
reins, where you're really helping him change his skeletal coordination, the walk is actually the gait where you're going to make the changes the easiest. You're going to keep him
Hmm.
safe if you have any lameness issues, potentially, and you work the back
Yeah.
muscles more rigorously in the walk compared to the trot. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
benefits, even though
Yeah.
it feels like you're not really working them. It's the fastest way
Mm.
to rebuild the back muscles and keep them safe in the process.
Yeah. 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 And I've noticed when he's standing in the paddock, he prior to doing this, his tail would always sit to one side, and now it's a lot straighter. So I feel like
Excellent.
I'm straightening his spine out.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
literally are, little by little. When we change,
Hmm.
like what you're guiding with the long reins is weight distribution left to right. That's all the long reins do. When you can
Hmm.
balance the weight distribution left to right on a circle, then it requires more engagement out of the horse. So on a straight line, it's easier to straighten the spine, but it's harder to keep them level and it's harder to engage the hindquarters.
Hmm.
That's why he
Yeah.
did better on the
Yeah.
straight lines at first. On the circles, it's a little harder to stay straight and level, but it's easier for them to start engaging the hindquarters again. So the
Hmm.
circle itself is really encouraging a deeper placement of the hind legs, forward rotation of the pelvis. And then when we add the long reins, it's stabilizing all that change left to right. So it works very
Yeah.
quickly to rebuild the hindquarters.
Hmm.
And that's why if he says it's too hard when we started and he won't move or he's crab walking and you can't quite make it look right, then
Yeah.
it was too soon for his body at the time. And what I'm seeing on
Yeah.
this video is absolutely ideal. And both directions are really, really good.
Mm.
And I like how you're going out and around. Like if he starts to lose a little forward, if he starts stopping more frequently, then you just sort of
Yeah.
come off the circle and go back around the arena. That's perfect. And
Yeah.
then,
I don't feel he's at the stage where I could stand still and hold the reins fairly static. I
no,
don't
but
think
you're
he's at that stage yet.
almost,
He'd just stop.
yeah, you're almost there though.
Yeah,
Like
not far. Yeah. Yeah.
this is the quietest you've been able to be on a circle. It's the most forward
Hmm.
I've seen him on the circle in both directions, and it's really moving the right direction.
Yeah.
And so
He's
that,
stopping there because that's where we stop.
yeah. And if he does that once in a while, I wouldn't worry about it. If he starts to do that more
Mm.
and more on a circle, then you know to go forward, go straight again, go back out, or just like you did. If he gets a little stuck, make it
Hmm.
easier, follow the rail again.
Yeah.
And everything you're doing, what you're going to find is the better he does internally as his core strength really starts to, as the core muscles gain more strength and he really starts to develop a little bit more self-carriage, you'll find that he needs the straight lines less frequently and he will happily stay on
Yeah.
the circle lap after lap after lap. And that's when,
Hmm.
like, you're already doing it with him. You're sort of using the straight lines as needed, but your focus is how long can you go around on a circle? And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
exactly where he needs to be working. That's perfect.
Hmm.
And he's really found a lot more length through his neck, whether he's on the straight line or the circle. So some of that like crestiness in his neck is starting to release tension and lengthen out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even on the straight lines, he doesn't look quite as heavy on his forehand. Like he's starting to get the hang of those hindquarters a little bit.
Hmm.
And did you
They still rotate quite a bit, don't they, at this stage?
the hind legs?
Do you, yeah. Do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all going the right direction, but
Yes. Yes.
he's still going to
Some way
have
to
to
go.
work through some arthritis in the hocks. He's still going to have to really build up some muscle through the back and hindquarter. And that's
Hmm.
why he goes up and down with his neck a bit, and it's why sometimes he'll
Hmm.
suddenly kind of call it quits on the circle.
Mm. Yeah.
But I like how you've increased the tension a bit when you're going around a straight line, and that's making him think. And is that what you
Hmm.
mean when he touches his back?
Yeah. Just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he got a
And
little
I checked, like,
fussy.
yeah, yeah, and there was no fly because I was watching. Yeah, that's a spot
So
he
he's definitely
touches.
feeling it. And the way we
Hmm.
know that we're asking too much too soon is like what he just did was he got a little fussy. He swung his head around, but then he just really cooperated and went back to work without too much fuss or
Yeah.
drama. If it's a
Hmm.
pain issue, they don't do that.
Yeah. Okay.
If
Yeah.
it's a pain issue, that sort of resistance to forward, fussiness, tossing the head, all of that
Carry on, wouldn't it?
it would carry on and it might even escalate, right? Or it would
Hmm.
happen more and more frequently in your training session. One of those two things.
Yeah.
Either it escalates or it repeats more frequently. The fact that he
Hmm.
kind of does that and then goes back to working really well, he feels it, something's changing, but it's
Yeah.
not creating a pain issue for him. It's just maybe a little uncomfortable, or maybe those pins and needles, we don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, this is so going to the left, it looks like you have to break up the circles, and going to the right, he can kind of motor around on the circle quite a bit more. Is that normal for
Yeah.
right now?
So he goes. I think he goes a bit better this way,
Okay.
although he's stopping because I think it's nearly the end of the half
Uh,
hour and he's got the clock on me.
yeah.
Yep. I mean,
No, this is
yeah,
neat.
maybe this time it wasn't as good, but I think previously when I've done it, he seems to be a lot better this direction than the other way, which really surprised me because this was the way that initially he was like really crab walking in and couldn't do half a circle.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the direction right hind to left front. The crab walking was him sort of falling on his front left so hard he
Hmm.
lost control over his forward motion. And the more
Yeah.
work you've done with the circles to the right and working to the right, the stronger he gets on
Mhm.
the right hind, the more
Yeah.
control he will have going left.
Yep.
And he lets you know when it gets hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
very
he's a
good.
cute boy.
I'm like, you've just made super steady progress with him. And what you should find is the time it took to go sort of from lunging and developing the ground driving, going from ground
Hmm.
driving to developing circles will take less time. He'll get better at the
Yeah.
circles faster than he got better at ground driving
Yeah.
in general. And you're going to start
Yeah. I can
seeing,
see that already, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
the momentum will keep picking up. So I
Hmm.
definitely don't want to change what you're doing at all. Like, I wouldn't change from the
Hmm.
long reins. I wouldn't change from how you're going through this training session. You're really reading
Hmm.
him, and you're already using the straight lines way less than I've seen before from before. Like, he's able to do
Yeah.
suddenly a lot of circles and just has to go out on the straight lines once in a while.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So that is fantastic. I want to back the video up all the way to look at the circles the other direction again. But yeah, you guys are looking kind of like pros now. You're looking like a long
Oh,
rainer.
yay. Took me a while to get there, didn't it? But
Do you know,
it's
I
just
have,
something you have to learn yourself, isn't it? The feel of it.
no, I brag on you regularly because I am so impressed that you tackled learning the long reins all on your own with just remote coaching. Like that is it
Yeah.
really a difficult thing to do. And you did great
Yeah.
because your horses didn't know it, you didn't know it. I'm not giving you any
Yeah.
benefits of like the surcingle or leverage or anything.
No,
And
I was so tempted to get that third single out at times. I thought, no,
yeah,
no, I won't. Yeah.
yeah, and with like you can now see how developing the feel, as frustrating as it can be, or, kind of daunting, it
Hmm.
changes. It's what makes the long reins work as a very effective tool for rebalancing horses. Like that's the only way it becomes
Yeah.
a tool of balance is if we develop the
Hmm.
feel for the long reins.
Yeah. 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 With Pablo, I've done a few circles with him as well. He goes very slow, but he kind of just keeps going, which is good. Not for as long as Stitch,
Yeah.
but I do find with him because he puts his head so low, the outside rein ends up down near his fetlocks pretty well, like right down low, and I'm forever trying to keep it above his hocks, but it's a challenge.
So when the outside rein falls below the hocks, and this is just across the
Hmm.
board, what that always means is that we don't have enough tension in the outside rein.
Hmm.
So
Right,
instead,
okay.
so we all try to lift it, but the real
Yeah.
solution is to tighten it, shorten it.
Okay. All right, I'll
Yeah.
try that. And it might be we might not be ready obviously for with Pablo, but I'll give it a go. And if it stops him, then we'll just go straight.
Yeah, exactly. Because for most horses, when you give enough support on the outside rein that it starts to change the use of the hindquarter, a lot of horses stop because they suddenly go, "Ooh, that's kind of hard," or they have to think
Mm,
about it. In Pablo's case, he responded very well to more support compared to doing
mm,
exercises with him that were less support. So you
yeah.
might be surprised. It happens a lot that horses that have very little forward, I'll actually be pretty heavy on the long reins and I'll really keep the inside rein straight, even if that means a
Mm-hmm.
big fat pull on the outside rein.
Mm-hmm.
And some horses that lack forward lack it because they don't feel stable. And when you put them on a circle and you increase the pressure on the outside rein, he might go more forward from that, not less.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Some
Yeah.
horses will stop and some horses making the circle smaller and more precise actually helps them go forward. So again,
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't know till you try.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give it a go.
Hmm.
Hmm. I'm actually got to change topic on to Pablo, but I'm actually thinking I might take him for a vet assessment in January sometime. Um, yeah, I he just how he tiptoes around the paddock sometimes. You know how I tried the stick-on shoes for him.
Uh-huh.
So they ended up coming off, and I had the trimmer come around. But he definitely grew a lot more sole. But he was still tiptoeing around with all of this sole on. So it obviously wasn't a case of having thin sole that was making him sore because he then got thicker soles. So anyway,
Was he
I might just chase
tiptoeing?
him for
Was he tiptoeing around with the shoes on, or he was moving normally in the
yeah.
pasture,
No, still tiptoeing around.
even with the shoes on? Okay. Yeah. So then it's not the shoes or the
Yeah.
depth of
Yeah.
sole. Um, it
Mm.
could just be like doing reasonably priced diagnostics with a vet is always a good idea. What I hate to see people do is
Hmm.
go down the rabbit hole of really expensive diagnostics because unless
Yeah.
something is obvious with the cheaper diagnostics, it's like kissing spine. Now we have X-ray
Mm.
machines that can see the spine, the dorsal tips touching with a machine the vet can carry. But it used to be you had to take your horse to a hospital or a school, university, and get the x-rays
Yeah.
done there. And it's super expensive, and there's nothing you can do about it medically.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and so the diagnostics can become really expensive for musculoskeletal issues. And at the end of the day, all they can offer is pain relief or surgery. And
Hmm.
the coordination that's causing the problem is what really has to change, or the problem
Mm.
perpetuates. Even if
Yeah.
you get the
Yeah.
surgery, even if you do the pain relief, if you don't change the coordination, it just keeps coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you start to get into MRIs and super expensive diagnostics, that's where I would kind of have my cutoff
Mm.
because there's
Mm.
nothing, everything you're doing with Pablo, he's shown almost faster improvements than Stitch. Like there was less to unwind
Yeah.
with Pablo, but
Hmm.
getting him moving forward is still kind of a slow process. He
Mm.
just had less baggage that you had to kind of undo before you could really start building balance. And with,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so everything he's improved on, he's gotten better and his body's is not only is his body looking better, he's happier. And so what that tells you
Mm.
is even if there's substantial issues lurking in that body,
Hmm.
he's happy to work through them.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah. Yeah.
And especially with the, putting him on the equiox or the previcox made such a difference. I suspect he's got
Mhm.
significant physical issues in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, something that the vet reminded me, and I don't know how I forgot this, I'm a bit of an airhead. Um, maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, he actually was diagnosed with a slight fracture in what's the bone in their hoof? Is it the pedal bone, the
Mhm.
one right at the bottom? Yeah.
Yeah, the coffin bone.
A-
Pedal bone, it's called coffin
what's
bone or P. I think I always get it reversed. P1, 2, 3. I think it's P3. I think P1 is starts at top in the fetlock
right? Okay, so the one that's
or the
right down the
pastern.
bottom, the one that's mm,
Yeah, the
the,
very low
like right in the
bone.
hoof. Yeah, the bottom
Hmm.
one. Yeah. In his, I think it was his right hind. I forgot about that. So
And
whether or not that's still an issue,
he fractured it.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a fracture is going to create pain. The pain, what happens with any kind of injury like that is the nervous system reroutes habitual skeletal coordination whenever that we have an injury. So
Hmm.
with Stitch, even the injury to his right hind, even after the injury heals, that coordination that was sort of set up in the nervous system to allow the healing, sort of rerouting, creating a detour around the injury
Yeah.
so that the injury
Yeah.
can heal, even when the injury is fully healed. If we don't actively retrain the nervous system back to ideal use, then it doesn't
Mm.
happen on its own.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why people have to do physical therapy after surgery or physical therapy instead of the surgery. It's like if physical therapy
Hmm.
for people addresses the very same issue that when we have an injury and the body sort of makes a detour around the injury, that new habit of coordination never changes back unless we
Yeah.
actively work on it. It
Yeah.
just stays
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
way.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
was Pablo's coffin bone was it was on the right hind?
Yes, I think so. Yep. Yep. As was his high suspensory ligament injury.
So there you go. That's why you have two left-handed horses. They both had significant
Mm.
injuries to the right hind. And even
Yeah.
though all the injuries have long since healed, and theoretically they should just start moving normally again because there's no pain, it doesn't work
Hmm.
that way. It's like
No.
they
No.
keep moving in a way that underutilizes the injured leg. And that typically
Mm.
makes them overuse the opposite front leg. That's just a
Yep.
normal way they do it. And
Yep.
so with rebalancing both of them, it's like, ooh, kind of knocking the rust off of that leg and getting it functional again is not a quick
Mm.
process. It's just like PT for people. It's not always comfortable
Yeah.
and it's not fast, and it takes a lot of repetition to restore healthy function. But both of
Hmm.
your
Yep.
horses, if when as a trainer, the more the horses concentrate during work, the calmer the horses are, and the more it starts to affect their behavior outside of the training session where they're just happier horses. All
Yeah.
those are the horses telling us that what we're doing is working.
Hmm.
And so if we
Yep.
want to move faster, if we want to see if we can become more efficient in the healing or use body work or medical intervention to help ease the whole process, then by all means, look at that.
Hmm.
But what you're doing, I don't want you to have any doubt, what you're doing is getting your horses there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's good.
And that's the one piece is there is like the physical, what they call physical therapy for horses is basically laser treatment and treadmills and things like that. I go, but it
Hmm.
has, they're still not looking at the coordination, like physical
Yeah,
therapy type
yeah,
coordination and
yeah,
rebalancing. And
yeah.
so it's,
And it seems so obvious, doesn't it? Now that you like say it, of course that's the other part of the equation, and yet it's not done.
it's
So,
not even on the
I mean,
radar. Yeah,
no, it just seems really odd that it's yeah. So there must be so many horses out there that are, compensating, and like you say, they never reroute their nervous system back to the yeah, the normal way of
exactly.
using it. And then it just, yeah,
No, and the
injuries
rehab,
happen from there, I suppose.
I don't know if it's true in Australia, but in the US, one of the highest growth areas of the veterinary industry are these rehab centers that they call them. And so it's not
Mm,
the
mm,
rehab centers. I went to several that are part of university vet schools to really look at what they
yeah.
were doing and what they're calling rehab. And like I said, they've got swimming pools and treadmills and ice boots and all these different pain relieving and healing modalities. But coordination is not even on the menu. Like there is nothing at these
So
rehab
no,
centers.
so no long reining, no long reining on on straight and circles. Okay.
Not at all.
Yeah, interesting.
And it's amazing
Yeah.
because it's wicked expensive and takes a long
Mm,
time. It's not going to be any faster
mm,
than training. And here you are in your backyard helping your horses more than
mm.
these expensive therapeutic places. You're changing
Yeah,
every
yeah,
single time we check in, your horse's coordination is better, the body is
yeah,
slowly adapting, and you're sort of
yeah.
respecting, you're letting your horses tell you when they th hit a threshold where the new part,
Mm,
the circle, is starting to feel
yeah,
hard. You go, okay, let's
yeah.
keep working, but let's make it easier.
Mm.
And that's what any
In
good physical therapist and personal trainer knows how to do, right? Any good
Yeah,
physical therapist or
yeah.
personal trainer. That's the whole objective is regaining healthy mobility of the body.
Mm. So with rehab, when we're trying to straighten out their body and like we're using long reins here, would a really good rider be able to achieve the same thing?
Oh yeah,
I mean, I'm not that, but
you're going to be doing that too. Yes.
oh, great.
Yes.
Okay,
Be
but like from the beginning, if it was a really good rider, could they get the same results that I'm getting on the long reins? I'm not suggesting I'm getting on riding because I'm not yet, but
no, but it's a
could
super
if it
good
was a really
super good question, right? So, as a rider, I've refined my ability to use my body like a tool, like the long reins, to help change
Mhm.
the horse's coordination. But being adept at that doesn't always mean it's the best or fastest path for every horse.
Yeah.
And so
Excuse me.
it kind of depends. Like even on the YouTube channel under the Wexford Training Barn, all the
Hmm.
videos I show of a horse with named Hercules, Hercules always makes faster progress if I do more groundwork and less riding.
Hmm.
And then another horse, Rafalco, has been the opposite. I made all of my initial progress with him by riding and doing very little groundwork because he was
Yeah.
so,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah. And then
Why do
I
you think that is?
some of it, it's first of all, it's unique to the horse. Second of all,
Hmm.
what the rider body weight offers a horse is stability if they lack it. So, like
Hmm.
Rafalco, he was so on the forehand and weakened in his back and hindquarter that he just couldn't control his own forward motion. So he was constantly going faster and faster and faster, trying to kind of find stability. And as soon as I would sit on him, the controlled balance in my body offered his body the stability it lacked.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Interesting.
And that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
where weight can be a benefit. Body weight
Yeah.
can be a huge benefit to helping the horses learn how to stabilize their back and hindquarter. But it depends on how we use and organize our body weight. That's the tricky
Mm.
part. But with Hercules, no matter how well I rode, he struggled. If I rode him more than I did groundwork, his balance would either get worse or wouldn't really make big improvements. And if I got off of him and did more groundwork than riding, his balance changed faster and the improvements turned into habits faster. So
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
progress has always been faster without the weight of a rider. And now he's doing better under saddle than he ever has. But I have to kind of watch. If I ride him too much and don't do
Hmm.
enough groundwork, the changes start to kind of stagnate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with
Interesting.
Rafalco, now we can do more groundwork than ever. But if I do too much groundwork and don't ride him often enough, he can stagnate a little as well. So that's
Hmm.
really unique to the horse that has nothing to do with our riding abilities. Now, if
Yeah.
we're traditionally trained and we're riding in a way that's making balance harder for our horse, not easier, then the rider has a detrimental
Hmm.
influence no matter what,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I'm definitely going to read your chapter on the riding piece. I haven't got to it yet, but before we get to riding, I will read your chapter. Make sure I'm
Well, there's a
up
whole
to
book,
speed.
the whole workbook. There's one whole workbook just on rider balance.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I mean. Yep, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And half of it is groundwork. Half of it's on the horse. And I actually just sent it to a friend of
Hmm.
mine who had a hip replacement and a knee replacement, and she's going through physio. And so she's playing with the groundwork part of the rider balance workbook to kind of help her
Hmm.
go through her physio.
Okay. Oh, groundwork for the human.
Hmm.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. I probably need that. Straighten
Yeah,
myself out.
no horse involved at all, but there's groundwork for
Ah,
humans to improve our
okay.
balance. Hmm.
Oh, good. Okay.
I know people never think, they always
That's good to
assume
know.
groundwork means horses, not us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like you've
Yeah.
discovered on the long reins, everything you've developed through your body and your feel and your timing to be effective on the long reins, you've already improved your riding skills. And it would,
Mm.
from the first time you go to sit on a horse, just like watching Stitch go around to the left, suddenly he could just do it.
Hmm.
And you'll be surprised when you get back on a horse, you already have a lot of muscle memory and information in your body that's going to translate very directly.
Yeah. I can feel that actually because I'm kind of watching them so much and I just feel a lot more in tune with their bodies, I think. Yeah.
Well, and
So
even
yeah,
sort of
interesting.
the struggle you went through learning to match the speed with your feet and learning not to move your arms around and learning to relax the arms and stabilize your torso, all of those are riding skills
Mm-hmm.
that go directly
Mm.
from the
Yeah.
ground to the horse's back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
I'm so thrilled. And like I said, I brag on you all the time for how well you've done with a little bit of coaching and a whole lot of like trial and error and hanging in there and persisting. You've just done
Yeah.
fantastic. And
Thank
your
you.
horses are starting to show it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long road, but definitely a worthy road, I think. And it is all just about the journey, isn't it? I'm not, I'm obviously not meant to have at the moment two horses to ride. This is what the path I've been given, and yeah, is what it is, isn't it?
Yep.
I'm obviously supposed to learn rehab from the ground up.
Well, and
That's
I'll
what the
give you
universe sent me.
kind of an indicator for both horses is whenever both horses can maintain a walk on a circle for
Hmm.
10 consecutive minutes each way, they're both
Hmm.
prepared for you to get on.
Okay.
So you're not
Okay.
that
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's exciting.
Yeah,
Better get
you're
that workbook out, hadn't I? Start reading
yeah,
it.
you're a lot
Yeah.
closer than you think because you like the better they get, the better they get. And the better they get, the faster they're able to make better and better changes. So like once you slog through the initial
Hmm.
changes, it starts to gain a lot of momentum. Like you're seeing the circles going faster than the ground driving. And
Yeah.
and it's going to go even faster where they start to leapfrog forward, where they could maybe only barely do one circle. Suddenly, within a week or two, they can do 5 circles. And then suddenly, in the next
Mm.
week or two, they can do 10 circles. Like it starts to
Yeah.
kind of pick up momentum like that. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
10 minutes each way at the walk without complaining on a circle is you're not that far away. It's not asking too much of them. And to me, that
Hmm.
shows a minimal level of balance and self-control that would be
Hmm.
a horse that feels okay about you sitting on him and would be
Yeah.
safe to sit on.
Yeah. What's your thoughts with Stitch's kissing spine? Um, do you think that that would that would have any implications or not really?
The only the only thing that's important about that is when you ride him for your safety as well as his pain issue, you cannot
Mhm.
afford at all for him to be high-headed and dropping the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
You cannot leverage his neck because too much bit pressure is going to take him there just like that. That's his habit. So
Yeah.
you're going to have to ride him on a very soft, loose rein, and
Hmm.
you're going to have to really fine tune your balance. Well, really with both horses, because they're both going to be picky for different reasons.
Mm. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you lose your balance on Pablo and you throw him off the tiniest bit, I imagine he's just going to stop. He's going to say,
Yes.
"Yeah, no, we're not doing that." Where with
Yeah.
Stitch, if you ride him with too much use of the reins at first,
Hmm.
and if your balance causes him to sort of lose his balance and shorten his back, there's the potential of a bone-on-bone issue.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
for Stitch, we'll sort of see what he has to say about it at the mounting block. That's going to tell you whether he's ready to ride or not. And the more he lengthens his neck on a circle, and the less often he does exactly what he's doing right this minute, the less often he does that
Yeah. Yeah.
during groundwork. And the more often you see the curve of his neck completely straighten
Mm.
out. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times when he's lengthening the neck, he's not always straightening out the curve, that little bit of curve that
No.
he has, right?
Yeah.
That little
Yeah.
bit of curve is related to the kissing spine. That's
Yeah. Okay.
the tension he's still holding. So
Yeah.
when he straightens the mane out completely between the withers and the
Yeah.
pole, that's when
Yeah.
you know you've gotten into the muscle around the kissing spine.
Yes. Okay.
Does that
Yeah.
make
So
sense?
that will be my telltale, won't it then?
Yeah.
I think.
Like
Yeah.
maybe for Stitch, not only 10 minutes of not stopping each direction on a circle, but
Mm.
if he gets defensive while you're even standing on the mounting block or just sitting on him, if that makes him get defensive and short, then we need
Mhm.
10 minutes of long and low on the circle to
Yes.
make sure
Yeah.
his muscles are going to be okay for you to sit on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the only thing
Yes.
is it can take a little longer because of the kissing spine, but it's no different. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
it's going to depend on him telling us where he's comfortable. And the one thing you cannot afford ever again with him is the way he used to be ridden. You can't use heavy bit
Yeah.
pressure and you can't
No.
You can't sort of make him look collected because that will aggravate the kissing spine.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. He used to when I bought him, or even when I was riding, he would go um below backwards. I
Behind the
don't know
bit.
what's the term, like behind the vertical.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So that is just the
So he just
same.
couldn't see.
Whenever the back goes down, which is what causes kissing
Yeah.
spine,
Mm-hmm.
the neck muscles shorten at the same time the back
Mm-hmm.
muscles shorten. But
Yeah.
if horses are restricted with rein pressure, then instead of the muscles shortening and the head going up, which is what Pablo does, right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
neck muscles shorten and they go behind the vertical because there's no
Mm.
place to go with
Yeah.
the rein pressure.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it
So that's
tells
how he
you,
was probably ridden. Yeah, and that's
yeah,
probably how he was ridden for a long time.
that's why
Yeah.
if you use too much rein pressure with him, it will trigger that old
Yes.
coordination and
Yeah.
that will aggravate the kissing spine. So once you start riding him, when you're
Mm-hmm.
on him, the posture of long and low is what we have to really make sure is strong first.
Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
complete reversal of kissing spine.
Mm-hmm.
Muscle use, right? That's what
Yeah.
allows the vertebra to come back to a normal alignment instead of touching the tips.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, how we're doing okay on time, but I know you need to go. So I'm thrilled,
Yes.
thrilled, thrilled. And even with kissing
Yeah.
spine, I've worked with a lot of horses with kissing spine. And just
Mm-hmm.
because they have the pathology, if we start thinking that Stitch is ready to be ridden, the next step is put him through what I call colt starting steps or restarting
Mm-hmm.
as if he's
Yep.
never been ridden. And we're going to
Mm-hmm.
have that same yes and no conversation. He's going to tell us
Mm-hmm.
when it's okay and when it's not okay. And
Yep.
and if he tells
Yeah.
us, if he gets really defensive when you get on and we give it a little bit of a, repeat it a bit, see if he can work through the difficulty. If the no's are escalating, we're going to pay
Mm-hmm.
attention.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah, but oh, you're doing so good. This is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's great. Like I
Good.
said before, I'm so happy I found you because this has been a long haul of not getting anywhere. So, yes,
And
I feel like we're on the up.
even Pablo's getting somewhere.
He is my little darling. Yes.
Yeah, but I would get him
Yeah.
checked out by the vet, and if the vet can't find anything obvious with cheap, regular diagnostic work, then just
Yeah.
go, you know what? He's working fine. Whatever it is, I don't want to know because it could be bad.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, true.
as long as he's working through it, we'll get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, yeah. I think he was going to do the uh the what is the test called when they nerve blocks on the
Hmm.
legs to
Hmm.
then see if that yeah that type of thing, and then maybe X-ray the feet perhaps,
Yep.
um that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So what I consider
Yeah.
normal diagnostics are, blood work, different tests of for diseases and metabolic issues, um,
Yeah.
and regular standard lameness exam stuff, like lameness exam where they
Yes.
do a stationary one, they do a flexion test, they do nerve blocks, they do
Yeah.
x-rays, and the x-rays can go from the hooves up to the hocks or the knees, and then
Hmm.
they can see a little bit of the spine if you kind of want to know what's going on, and most of the neck if you need to x-ray that. But once you get
Yeah.
into SI issues or deeper issues that are going to take an MRI or nuclear scintigraphy or things that are really,
Right.
just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just,
Okay. So X-rays are okay, but MRIs and everything else we will say no to those ones. Yeah,
yeah,
fair
any
enough. Yeah.
diagnostics that your vet can do at your barn, Like those
Yeah.
kind of diagnostics are great. Do, do whatever you
Hmm.
want to do at your barn. As soon as you have to haul them somewhere to
Oh, okay.
use
He wants me
bigger,
to take him in there. So I wonder, all right, I'll see.
yeah,
He's
just,
asked me to take him into the hospital, so I wonder what that means. I might have a conversation with him to see what he's planning on doing.
yeah, when they ask
Yeah.
you to do that, cha-ching, 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 really
That's
quickly.
what my husband said. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
see, if I saw a reason, I would fully support that decision if I saw anything in your work with
Hmm.
Pablo that indicated something more serious.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
I do not see it in all the videos I've looked at. And even though he was a real
Okay.
puzzle, he was a major
Mm.
puzzle to start with.
Yeah,
But but
yeah,
ever since you
definitely.
started on
Yeah.
the long reins with him, he's less of a puzzle and he's far more predictable now.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we're definitely improving by the session. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
good,
find
good.
out what diagnostics they want to do because that can be big,
Yeah.
really big money.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I don't think
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need to go there.
No, and I'm sure they can take x-rays on at the property, can't they? I'm sure they've got mobile machines, I would
Oh
imagine.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
they
don't know.
digital x-rays now are fantastic. And my vet can do the neck, the spine, all the legs, can do most x-rays. The only thing I would have to go in for would be an MRI or to x-ray something like
Mm.
the hip joint, the pelvis, the deeper part, the lower cervical spine,
Mm-hmm.
SI joint, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? Because they'll even
Yes.
do uh
Yeah, okay.
they can do ultrasounds on site if it's in the legs. Like they can do
Mm.
ultrasounds and x-rays
Yeah,
on site.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
digital
Okay, good
x-ray
to know.
machines are
Yeah.
really, really good. They're very accurate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, I might have a chat with my vet.
Yeah, because
Cool.
just watch, like, there's always going to be something wrong that you can spend your money on. But I go, if he's
Mm-hmm.
on a reasonable diet, if the Previcox is helping him, then yes, there's an issue in there
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. But do you need to do more medical intervention? Maybe yes, maybe no. But right
Mm-hmm.
now, I wouldn't,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
right now, there's no reason he can't just keep continuing the way he is. I don't
Keep
see
going.
anything.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But check with your vet. I'm
So
not a
it's
vet.
more me. All right, I'll calm down.
But I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to see you go
yeah.
down that rabbit hole because at the end of the
Mm,
day, after all that diagnostic work, I've had many clients who were told there's either surgery or rehab center
mm.
are their only options. And I go,
Yeah,
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 we're already doing that.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Good point. Yeah. All right. And that would be much better for my bank account, wouldn't
Yeah. Yeah.
it? Yeah,
All right, my
yeah.
dear.
Yeah, lovely. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. You have a good night and take care. I'll see you next time.
You too. Oh,
Cool.
let me stop the recording.